doing this.
I know it's been a while and it's been, well, this is fun. I'm happy to be
Oh
here.
my
Thank you for
God. Oh
inviting
my
me.
God. We have such an incredible story of how we met. But I just want to introduce everybody to you. This is Suzy Pruden. I call her my mentor and my guide and my guardian angel because she came at a time in my life that was just so perfect, such divine timing. And I just want to Suzy, I looked at your website and saw what you created, and I was like, whoa, I had no idea. I can't believe I never even Googled you before. But this is Suzy, and she is a author of 12 books. She is, well, the Itty Bitty book, which I created, so I'm so excited to be sharing that with all of you soon. And you're an inspirational speaker. Oh my God, your TED Talk,
Mhm.
unbelievable. Loved your TED Talk. I was laughing the whole time. And oh my God, Oprah, The Today Show, Good Morning America. The list goes on and on. So I know this is going to be a great talk, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you.
So welcome to All About You.
Thank you. Thank you. What else? I mean, it's fun to be here. And what's fun, Gina, is to get to know you
Thank you.
over these years. And it has been years.
I
I
know.
think it's at least a year and a half.
It started during the very beginning of the
Yeah.
pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's 2 years.
Yeah.
That's
That's when it
amazing.
started.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. The fact that the pandemic is 2 years now
I know.
is amazing
I know.
because it's like, wait a second, what just happened? And
Hmm.
when you say what just happened here to anybody, they always say, I don't know. I don't know where it went. Where did those 2 years go?
Yes.
And yet a lot happened.
A lot happened. I mean, I think a lot happened internally for a lot of people.
Oh, yes.
And this conversation that I like to have my listeners leave with something. And I have a strong passion that you also have, which is creating a new story.
I beg your pardon. There's a plane going over my head right now. Can you
Oh,
repeat what you just said?
creating a new story for
Oh,
ourselves.
always. Yes. You know, in my hypnosis practice, and I'm not doing a lot of that now, but when I had my office in El Segundo, and people would come to me with their story, and I would tell them,
Mhm.
you can tell me your story once and never again. It's time to make up a new story. And it's amazing what would happen to people. It was like, ah, but who will I be if I can't tell my story? And I said, well, that's what we have to find out. We needed to create a new story. And so, yes.
And so, why I have, I, I mean, this is the thing, everyone that's listening here, trusting yourself and your instincts. Like, I knew I needed to know you. I had a deep knowing.
Well, you were listening to the radio, and I was being interviewed by Christine Blasdale on KPFK, and you got off the highway or the whatever road you were on so that you could write down the information. And you didn't wait to go through the station like most people do. You called me right away.
Suzy, first of all, we were meant to be together.
I know.
First, we had the same mission. I'm creating a new story is what I teach. It's what
Yep.
I facilitate and what I'm doing for myself and what I'm
Right.
constantly reinventing myself. And I was in a rent-a-car and I was listening to a radio station. I'm always on my Bluetooth and always listening to my own music and podcasts and things like that. But I was on a Christian radio station and it was going in and out. And I was just like, oh my God, I don't know what it is. It's your voice. It was something you said. And I pulled over, finally got the name. I'm like, Suzy Pruden. As soon as I got to the center where I work, I Facebook messaged you. I
That's
didn't
right.
wait. You have to act on opportunities.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
you do. It's like, okay, every morning when I wake up, I ask God, I said, okay, God, where do you want me? What do you want me to do today?
Yeah.
And then the day unfolds
Hmm.
and it's magical.
Yes.
And sometimes it isn't. And sometimes we slog through stuff.
Mhm.
You know, my last year was pretty hard because I was in so much pain for so long.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what was going on with my body. Finally, I found out my hip was totally gone, basically. But that, as I say, sometimes life is magical. And sometimes we go through really, really, really tough times. And we have to remember in the tough time that it's and it doesn't feel like it, it's only a moment. And we'll get back into the good stuff. And
Honestly,
it's a balance. It goes back and forth.
yeah. No, no, no. I totally resonate with what you're saying. I call it peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
And then we can't always be on the peak, but when you're in
Oh,
the valley is when you really listen because there's medicine there.
oh yeah.
I found in my darkest moments were some of the biggest strengths were mustered up for me to move forward in the direction that I needed to move forward in. And I would listen. And it's also giving yourself permission to be in that moment without judgment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
You're
sometimes,
gonna be in the you're gonna be in it regardless, whether you judge it
right.
or not. You're in it. It's
You're
like,
in it. So
oh,
you might as well accept it and be like, well, what can I take away from this?
what? Yeah,
What can I take away from this? What lessons? What am I be? What's being shown to me here
yeah,
for my opportunity for growth?
yeah.
I love all this stuff, you know? And that's how it is with creating the new story. Is that like you are that powerful, like you said in your TED talk.
What you think is what you create, period.
Mhm.
And so when I'm in my darkest periods, I'm going, okay, Suzy, what are you thinking that's creating this? Because this is a partnership with the universe. And when I'm thinking, when it's really hard, 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 and I'm focusing on the hard, it just gets harder. Um, so I do say you have the power. You have the power to change your life. You have the power to get into happiness. It's a choice. I have a dear friend,
Mhm.
and she told me one day decided, she decided she was just going to be happy.
Yeah.
And I've never seen her unhappy. Even when it's hard, she's just happy. Now imagine, Gina, you're going through life and you're happy, even when it's hard. Well, you have a whole different experience than if you're miserable and it's hard. Because if you're miserable and it's hard, it just gets harder. And if you're happy, and that's people, it's simple. I was teaching a workshop at Rancho La Puerta years ago, and I was talking about the simplicity of life. And one of the participants says, "You make it sound so simple." And I said, "It is simple. It's just not easy."
Yeah.
And that's the difference. And she got so mad at me. She didn't talk to me for 3 days. And she came back, it was a Tuesday, came back on Friday and apologized. I said, "What are you apologizing for?" She said, "I was mad at you." I said, "Okay," because I don't take it on. And I said, "Why were you mad?" She said, "Well, because you said it wasn't easy." I said, "Well, it isn't." She said, "Well, I was mad at you because you said that. And I've been saying nasty things about you all week and I want to apologize." I said, "Thank you." She said, "But you're right. It is simple." I said, "I know." "And it isn't easy." I said, "Yeah, I know." So
Yeah.
you can just do it.
Well, I think when you have the mindset as you're a spiritual being having a human experience,
Right.
being human is challenging.
Yes.
But if you're in your spirituality, you can take a moment, pull back, look down, be a neutral observer, and kind of bring humor into it, which can make it fun and can also make it easier when you speak of easy. But I want to give a voice to what you were saying about just be happy. There's also a quality that a lot of women do, which is a bypass, to put on that happy face and to fake it like they're happy, but deep, deep down they weren't. And like I lived like that for quite a while, you know, and I think just be happy and you will be happy, but you also have to go to that root cause of the
Agreed.
unhappiness
Yeah. Agreed. Well,
and get honest with yourself
yeah.
why
Yeah.
you're unhappy and then make the choices which you have that power is yes, I'm unhappy. So what am I going to do about it to be
That's the
happy?
piece. That's the piece. And so with my friend Shelly, her attitude is, "I'm going to be happy and do whatever it takes."
Yeah.
So that if something comes up that knocks that happiness, I have to handle that.
Mm.
And that's so instead of just putting on a happy face, which doesn't fix the unhappy, you can you can fake it while you're working on changing it, but you
Exactly.
have to work on changing it
Right.
because otherwise, whoa, it's too hard. Been there, done that. It's too hard.
Too hard. And so a big part of this also, I feel like when you're in those states of happiness, gratitude, joy, your vibration's higher.
Yes.
In your vibration, so all good things come from that
Yes.
higher frequency. So if you're in that self-doubt, insecurity, jealousy, envy, anger, frustration, nothing good comes from those energy, that
Yes.
frequency.
And you can feel it. I mean, I
Yeah.
know with my journey over the last year, it got so bad. I mean, I didn't care if I didn't get out of bed.
Mhm.
And so nothing was happening. And when I look at so I had my surgery in December, and then I had 3 months pretty much with getting back to me. And so outrageous. I had a pile of papers. And so in going through them, I went, oh God, I don't believe I didn't handle that. Oh my dear, oh geez, creepers. I don't believe I didn't so I handled it.
Yeah.
And now it's fun today, this whole week. I've been bouncing around, and I decided to do a retreat in Rancho Palos Verdes. People are throwing money at me to sign up. I'm excited.
Wow, I can feel your energy.
I'm excited because I got a call today from one of my authors from New York. I
Mhm.
want to come to your retreat. What do I do? So I took her to my website and said, click this, not click this button. Boom, she signed up.
What's your retreat about? What's happening there?
Oh, Tina, it's so exciting. I used to do a retreat in the 90s called Awaken the Tiger Within. And really, it's about each person basically just brings themselves to the retreat, and they focus on themselves, their belief systems, their stories, all the stuff that keeps them where they are and allows them then, because we make the changes that need to be made, we keep what is keepable, we change what is changeable, so that when they leave on Sunday, they have a whole new image of themselves, a whole new image of their lives. And it's done in a gentle, loving way. I don't believe in beating people up so that by the end of the retreat, they say, thank God I'm on the other side of this retreat. Now I can feel good about myself. No, it's throughout the retreat. There is no, well, if you did this, you could do that. No, it's like, what do you want to do? How do you want to do it?
Mhm. And like, what's in the way of you doing that?
And then we spend the first morning getting rid of negative beliefs, and it's hysterical. It's hysterical because, there's a layer that we all deal with, and
Mhm.
then someone will say something on the next level, and that will trigger somebody else to say something, and all of a sudden, people are so far deep in their peeling of the onion, they didn't know that they had those beliefs, but those are the ones that are keeping them from the joy, from the happiness, from the forward movement, from taking the leap. Now, most people say, they want to leap from point A to point B. But somebody said something once to me that really caught my attention. It's not about from A to B, it's from A.
Just starting there.
That's it, it's from A.
I like that.
So, can you feel that? It's like a leap,
Yes.
and you're, okay, let's see.
It's in that unknown
Yeah,
territory
yeah, in
that
the
we
unknown.
find the magic.
And that's where the magic is.
Totally. I totally agree with that. And just like to have that trust that you're going to be okay.
Yeah,
You're so stagnant and you're not okay now. What do you have to lose? But you have
you
so
got
much
nothing to
to gain.
lose.
So much to gain.
Yeah. So we start off there, and then we go the afternoon on Saturdays, a lot of journal work. And we'll
Mhm.
do an exercise, and we'll go out into the gardens and journal. And then um, this is fun. I have everybody write themselves a love letter, which when I first gave that assignment, this is years ago, they panicked. What do you mean write myself a love letter? I can't write myself a love letter. Yeah, you can.
It's beautiful.
And there was one Asian woman, and their culture does not promote self-love. It's just that culturally. And she looked at me, she said, how do I do that? I said, I don't exactly know, but start with dearest, and I can't remember her name, so-and-so, I love you.
Oh,
And she went, I don't know if I can do that. I said, it's okay, just go out into, we were at Marietta when it was still open to the public. And just go into the gardens and write yourself a love letter. She came back with 7 pages.
wow.
We were all crying. I mean, it was a beautiful. So
Oh,
that's
so
one of the exit. That's
beautiful.
the kind of thing we do. And then I show a movie Saturday night, and I'm I'm so excited because I'm going to get lots of popcorn and bring it, in bags and stuff. We'll watch this movie. It's called Leaving Normal. It's from the 80s. And it's a great film on creating your life.
What's the name of the movie?
Leaving Normal.
Oh, Leaving Normal.
Yeah, it's a great film. I mean, it's from the 80s and I'm still showing it.
Wow.
Because it's that powerful.
Wow.
And when you've got something that works, use it.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so many of our beliefs are so irrational. And when you really hear it, when someone reflects it back to you, like when you say, "Do you really believe that?" They're like, "No."
Right.
I'm like, "Isn't that irrational? Like, do you really believe that you would do this, this, and this, and that would work for you?" Or like whatever the scenario is.
Yeah.
And they're just like, "No." And I'm like, "And you carried that for
how long?
40 years?"
So I was doing a seminar, a retreat. I was taking it.
Yeah.
I do a lot of classes. Okay.
I know. Every time I talk to you, you're like leaving to go somewhere.
We have to stop for a minute.
Okay.
This is Suzy.
So Suzy, you know what I want to talk about? I love when you started out your TED Talk with From Riches to Rags.
Uh-huh.
I really love that you can. Listening to your story, how you were. I have a similar thing, but like how you created prosperity. You know, and I think that that's like also a frequency and a mindset that you can be prosperous in abundance even when you feel like you're without.
Well, even when you're homeless.
You're homeless. This is okay.
So that was my story when my TED Talk. What my assistant Donna said, Suzy, just take one thought at a time because Suzy, they're jamming. And that's funny because they come all the way and then they jam. So when I created that particular talk, most people talk about their miseries. They start there.
Yeah.
I was born under a cabbage patch and I didn't have shoes and we didn't eat 3 meals, whatever it is.
I know.
And that's not my story. My story is I was born rich and really rich. And I had no idea how rich we were. I had no idea. My parents didn't wear it out loud, but the chauffeur picked me up at school, took me to my riding lessons, I grew up in Westchester County, just outside of New York City. And so the chauffeur took me to my writing lessons, to my art lessons. I can't remember what else lessons I had. But I was always really well taken care of. I rode horses 3 times a week. When I was still living, at one point I went to a very posh private school in Greenwich, Connecticut. So I rode there and I rode in the stable where I grew up riding next to my grandparents' house in Westchester. So I had all of this wealth. Mm-hmm. And then I went to boarding school, went to college. My mother said I couldn't date the boy I was dating, so I married him.
Oh, that's so funny.
And I know, seriously, what does one do when you're me and your mother says you can't date him, you can never see him again?
You're like,
I'm not going to do that. And I married him. And they didn't have an idea.
Is this the guy you were married to the whole time?
Yes. I had one marriage, 18 years. Okay. And some of it was good and some of it was horrible. Yeah. But I then created a business and then I became a famous person. And then I was making money. So now I went from being a rich kid to being a momentary, oh my God, what am I going to do, kid? 19, I got married. And then I basically created wealth again. I created wealth. I created celebrity. I was a celebrity, I didn't do Oprah yet. That was later. But I did the Today Show. I did Good Morning America. I did 18 national tours because I wrote all those books. And I wrote those books with big houses in New York. And I did television in New York, and I was interviewed by newspapers and magazines and radio, and I did regular radio, and I did it was heady. Whoa. It was really heady.
And were you in your 20s?
I was in my 30s.
Okay.
No, I was in my 20s when my business started to get successful. I had a few years, businesses don't necessarily jump into success the day you decide to do them. So
No,
I opened my business in 1965, and I was doing toddler fitness in New York, and that was unheard of.
toddler.
And I had like my friends' kids were my clients. One of my clients brought a friend of hers to my little studio, which I rented for the hour 2 or 3 times a week on Broadway in Manhattan, second floor. It was so outrageous. It was so outrageous how I did this. I mean, I didn't have any money really. All my money was in trust funds. And my family said they were going to disown me. So I had to do it myself. That's a very powerful place to be. I
Wow.
had to do it myself.
And you trusted yourself.
I didn't know any different.
Well, there's so many kids that come from trust funds that just don't show up. You know, they don't.
Well, there was no, I never had a trust. I mean, my trust fund was never, I never had it in my hand
But I mean,
growing up.
like came from riches
Yeah.
and kind of are slackers a little bit. Maybe don't take action and do things in their lives, and
Yeah.
not like you. You were empowered. You knew you were empowered.
I didn't know different.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know, it's like, okay, so they're not going to give it to me. And I don't do well with no.
I can tell.
I just don't do well with no. So my attitude is, and I didn't know it at the time, say yes and figure it out. And now the coaches that I work with, you know, their mantras say yes and figure it out. Well, I've been living that since I'm 19 years old. And I had to figure it out. And I was supporting my husband because he went back to school. And I don't know how many years he took to graduate. But so I had this little school, little tiny, and I had one toddler class. My son, by this time, was a toddler, was 1968. My son was a toddler. I had a toddler class. And then somebody called me because they saw my ad in one of the little newspapers and said, do you teach mother-child classes? And I said, yes. And then I figured it out.
Yeah.
You know, and she came with a friend of hers, and I taught them 3 kids, 2 parents. And she said, this is wonderful. Now I'm struggling. I am really struggling. I'm making maybe, $120 a week,
Right.
living on the Upper West Side in Manhattan.
Wow.
And we paid $183 a month rent for a 2-bedroom apartment. I bought that apartment in 1976 for $14,000. So, now it's worth probably 3 or 4 million. And if only, right? So here I am. My friend said, may I bring a friend of mine who's a reporter at the Times to come and see your class? Sure. I didn't know what that meant. Not at all. I hadn't washed my hair. I didn't wear makeup. I had a rip in my tight, little tiny rip in my tights. My son is in both classes. I'm carrying him on my hip in one class. And I'm teaching these kids. And she brought a photographer. And I didn't know what that meant. 3 weeks later, there was a 3/4 page story about me, about my classes, about my kids. One of my parents who came to my class came all the way from Greenwich, Connecticut. Now that's saying something because I lived in Manhattan. My school was in Manhattan, tiny little school. We did something. This is so fun. We did something in the class where I took a mattress and rolled it up, creating a tunnel, getting the kids to go through the tunnel. My balance beams with boards, long boards on other boards that were 2 inches off the floor that I painted red, yellow, and blue. I had no real equipment.
Wow, you're so resourceful.
But I had an idea, and my mother, and I was trained by my mother, who was the nation's foremost fitness authority.
Okay.
I mean, I had that background. So I created all this stuff, and I taught these kids. And this article came out 3/4 of a page in the New York Times. That was on a Thursday. The following Monday, I had gone from 8 kids in my class. The following Monday, I had 75 students.
Wow.
That's what happened.
Wow.
And I tell my authors now, take your books to the newspapers because you are a lifestyle story. You
Oh,
are a business story. Get your story about now, what you're doing now, the empowerment you give to others through your book now, and get out there. You can do it. I did it. So from that day, I still have the article. From that day on, we took off. And the rest is history. I got television, I got radio.
did your mom acknowledge you for that?
No, she actually tried to sue me 3 times because I got more successful at one point than she was. Yeah, it's a story, but I don't wallow in it. I
And you're
don't.
not a you weren't you did you decide not to be a victim in that story.
No.
No. I
Why
mean,
would I be? It's like, really? You're
no,
gonna
but
sue?
so many people would dwell on the fact that, well, my mom, this, and that, but you,
Well, no, I did to my mom this, and that, but I still
no,
went on. I mean, yada, yada, yada. My, poor me, this, poor me, that.
right.
But it didn't stop me.
No.
It didn't stop me.
Mhm.
And I did make peace with my mother later on in the 80s when I divorced my husband. My mother hated my husband, hated him. And she was right in one way and wrong in another. And he helped me in my business, and he also didn't. I mean, it was a mix. There was good stuff and really bad stuff. And so I divorced him in
I mean, a
81.
lot of relationships have that.
Yeah. When the bad outweighed the good,
That's when you left.
that's when I left.
It's over.
Yeah. When it got so awful, I just left. And I just left. And we got divorced. I kept the business. And I sold that was in 81. I sold the business in 83. I did my Eat, Pray, Love adventure, which was totally outrageous. I was a total crazy person. And when you're in a, it's like a bird cage. When you're in a bird cage marriage where you can't get out, and then all of a sudden the door is open and you're out, it's like, woo, this is fun. And so I did my Eat, Pray, Love. I didn't eat very much, but I did a lot of praying and a lot of loving, and it was really wonderful.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing. That's a whole nother.
It's a whole other story. Eventually, I moved out to California with a boyfriend we lived together for about 3.5 years. And it was wonderful. We're still good friends. That was 84. And then I started creating body mind stuff. And I met Louise Hay through the Inside Edge, which is an organization that she and I both belong to, along with Mark Victor Hansen, Jack Canfield, Barbara DeAngelis, some really incredible people. And Louise and I became friends. And it turns out that she lived about 10 blocks from me in the Palisades I was living in the Palisades at that time. And she and I would get together twice a week and exercise, because even though I wasn't teaching exercise, I exercised with Louise. And one day her hip was hurting. And I said, well, you're the expert. What does it mean? And so she stopped, she thought, she gave me an answer. I don't remember what it was. And I got an idea right then. I said, Louise, what if we did a video together? I'll do the exercises and you do the affirmations for each body part.
Oh, cool.
I have it still. I mean, we did it.
Yeah, for
It's
people
called,
that don't know, she's the affirmation queen.
she's the affirmation queen.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
pretty much invented it, right? Like,
Yeah. And,
yeah.
and she talks about the body and what it represents. For example, the shoulders, how you carry life. I love it that the buttocks is your power, because I had a buttocks issue. I hated my rear end.
Yeah.
And she teaches you, she taught you, she's now passed, she taught you, this is in the 80s,
Yeah.
how to love your body. Love your body to wellness. So we did the video. I wrote a book, Meta Fitness. That's the book that got me on the Oprah show. And then in my TED talk, what I talk about is how I got here. And then, and I don't know what my mindset was to create what I created next, but I obviously needed it. I lost everything 8 months after Oprah, and I ended up homeless. But I was broke, but I was also famous. And so
So crazy.
I know, because I had just done a national tour.
Right.
And so people would invite me to, like, Rancho La Puerta. I would go to Rancho La Puerta and speak for a week. So I'd drive in Saturday morning. I always had my room and board. They wouldn't pay me, but I'm in a 5-star spa. Give me a break. I got my massages. $5 I had to pay because I was a teacher there. $5 for a massage. So I had a week there. Now I'm homeless, but I'm at a 5-star spa. That's how I created the next 8 months of my life.
Wow.
And then I finally, then magic happened. I mean, a lawsuit that I'd had with Studio 54, because I fell there and hurt my back, didn't follow through with it. But when they sold Studio 54, they handled all the lawsuits. My lawyer, who I hadn't spoken to in years, I don't know how he found me, said, oh, by the way, Suzy, we just got $30,000 from Studio 54. And I was broke.
Wow.
$30,000 from Studio 54. I'm sending you $18,000.
Wow.
Oh, and this is even better, this part. You know, I have my stories on my TED Talk, which anybody listening to this or watching this, go to ittybittypublishing.com, and where it says about, click on that and you'll see this story of how I create magic. So my sister and I were talking, this is, I can't remember exactly which year, I was still homeless, so it's 1990. We're sitting in her apartment in New York City, and we're both bemoaning the fact that we're both pretty broke. And we inherited a lot of money over time. And over time, it was spent. And either in a great way or a stupid way, we spent it both ways. And we said, well, maybe someone will die and leave us some money. And then one of us said, that's probably not a good idea to send out there, because we don't want to be responsible for anybody dying. And so then one of us, and we don't know who, said, well, maybe someone we don't know will die and leave us some money. And then we let it go. 6 weeks later, my cousin called me and I went, oh no, Uncle Herbert died. He said, no, Suzy, do you remember Dr. Schoenfeld? And I said, yes, he was a veterinarian. My grandfather during the Second World War learned that 3 of his university friends were in concentration camps. And he bought them out. He paid the Nazis to free them. And he brought them to the US and he supported them for the rest of their lives because they were pretty damaged. And then when they died, their money went to their kids. And one of them, Dr. Schoenfeld's daughter, didn't have any children. She left her money to my sister, me, and my uncle. So someone died that I didn't know and left us each $20,000. That's how I got back to LA and back into my life.
Oh my, Suzy.
I know. It's magical, but magic exists.
I know.
Just ask.
I know. And it's also just, you're so resourceful. We are so capable of creating and thinking and just being open to see the opportunities in the people that come into our lives, right? And like I was just telling a client yesterday, you know, I want you to start, now that you're opening, like there's the art to receiving,
right?
Start being a witness of when someone comes to tell you something or has a conversation, be like, okay, what is this person really here for? What do I need to learn from this person? Like, get curious about life, right?
Yes. Get curious about life. Get curious about yourself.
Oh, totally.
Well, you're much more than you think you are.
Yeah.
And you're much more talented. Everyone has the ability to be resourceful. They just have to tap into it.
I know.
And get out of the poor me.
Yeah. Creating the new story. It's coming full circle back to that.
Yep.
You know, what is it? Like, I like saying creating the playbook, living by your own rules. You can, just because it says you should do this, like I'm a little bit like the rebel like you. You know, like my kids will say something like, you can't do that. I'm like, says who?
Right.
Like, who's telling you that I can't do this?
Right.
I live by my own rules. And I've always been like that since I was a child. And that's just how I live my life, because why not? Because we can.
Well, I have a funny story. I have a bazillion stories.
I know you do.
And my calls, my classes, my students, and they're now becoming my friends, laugh at me because I have a story for that. I have a story for that. I have a story for that. So, and then I've got to pay attention to time because I have a client we got time. We got 6 minutes. Yeah, we got time. We got 5 minutes. So this is great. And this is important for every single woman and possibly some men listening, watching, who are hearing this.
Okay.
Did you know that when you go to the doctor and they tell you have to get on the scale, you don't have to? Most people don't know that. So I went to the doctor and I don't like the scale. I will weigh myself at home first thing in the morning after I go to the bathroom and before I do anything else, so that I'm as empty as possible, I'll get on the scale. I don't always like what I see. And since COVID, definitely. So I got to the doctor. This is hysterical. I got to the doctor, this is a number of years ago, and there was a gentleman checking me in. And he said to get on the scale. I said, no. He said, you have to. I said, no, I don't. He said, yes. And we argued, I would say for 2 to 3 minutes. I said, I'm not getting on the scale. I don't have to. Yes, you do. No, I don't. Yes, you do. No, there is no law that says I have to get on that scale. So he finally relinquished and said, okay. And then he took my blood pressure. And by that time, I'm furious.
Yeah.
And I'm steaming. And I'm thinking, and I said to him, you're taking my blood pressure now? And of course it was high.
Yeah.
And he said, well, maybe I should wait a while. I said, yeah, maybe you should. So he did, and it went down, but it was hysterical. It was wonderful. Now, I'll say it in such a way now, and this is it, the way you said, I'm not getting on that scale. Don't even think about it. Nobody argues with me. Now I'm with UCLA Medical, and nobody argues with me anymore. 78 years old. Don't mess with me.
Right. But I mean, that's a mentality that you can control what you want to do.
Yeah. So
and why not?
When your kids say you can't do that, and you look at them and go, why not?
Like, it's like, where's this voice that's saying I can't?
Yeah.
We're so programmed, but that's a whole nother thing.
So I want to give your listeners and viewers a gift.
Okay, great.
And if they go to my how do I do this?
You can give me a link and I can add it.
I will give you the link. So
on the bottom of everything.
And let me explain what it is.
Okay.
It's 4 hypnosis processes to make more money, 4 hypnosis processes to write a best-selling book. And if anyone wants to talk to me for a half an hour on either what's going on in their life or wanting to write a book, or, it's a half-hour free consultation with me. So they get the 4 hypnosis downloads to make more money, 4 to write a best-selling book, 30 minutes free consultation with me. And really, I am doing coaching again, and I am publishing books. So it's either one, publishing books, which we didn't talk about today, which is fine. But coaching, it's really about, let's create your life the way you want it. Get rid of all the minutia that's there. You don't need it. And focus on what you want instead of what you don't want. You create what you think about. What are you thinking?
Where you put your attention is where you flow.
That's it.
Totally. Thank you, Suzy.
My pleasure. Always my pleasure.
I can't wait to talk to you again soon, which I know I will.
Yes.
Have a beautiful day.
You too. Okay. And thank you for this opportunity.
Of course. Bye.
Bye.
Until next time, remember to always think big, feel more, and explore. And subscribe, comment, and share.